Hey, this is Marabelle Blue with KEM Top Talk. You know, being a mother for some ladies out there can be very natural. And I'm fortunate enough to share with you that this is not a real baby. And I'm not a real mother. This baby comes from the palace of Marilyn Mansfield, where we are here today interviewing her and showcasing all of her beautiful realistic dolls. And I'm telling you right now, it's freaking me out. I mean, I'm handling this baby like it's a real baby, and it isn't. Look at this. If I went outside right now with a baby carriage, people would actually think that I had a real baby. Marilyn, share with us how you got into this whole baby making, because this is just one of your normal looking babies.
Yes.
You definitely have a lot of different ones. I mean, if we put the camera around, we have all these different dolls that you're going to discuss with us. But share with us from the beginning, like, how did you get into all this? Was it a collection that you had that just kind of inspired you?
Yes, definitely. I've collected dolls my entire life. I've always had a fascination with dolls, and they were my favorite toy as a kid and that sort of thing. But I actually started collecting. These are called reborn dolls, and I actually started collecting more gothic and horror babies, like little vampires and demons and things like that. And I had discovered the more normal ones through a documentary, and I thought, I wonder if I would like one of those, So I bought one, and it looked really real, and I went out that day and bought her clothes and things, and it reminded me of when my kids were babies, which of course is a joyful time. And I really enjoyed it, and I remember just like rushing around the store to get home to hold the doll, and it was a little bit strange because it looked really real. And she smelled like a baby, and it was weighted like a baby, and I just became fascinated with.
And this was something that you bought outside.
I bought from another artist. Yes,
okay.
I had. I found this particular artist on eBay, and I liked her work. Her prices were reasonable because they are expensive, and I got the baby, and I was so excited. It was like having a new baby in the house. So I became fascinated with the whole art form, and I started collecting more and more and more, and then I had like a room full of babies.
I like your choice. So looking at all of these dolls and how realistic, like, we were talking about the word that you use, fascination, how society likes to frown upon and call it obsession. And you use the word fascination, which I think it's a good word. It's a positive word. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. I come here and I'm holding, feels like a real baby to me, and it brings about feelings, me personally not being a mother, but it brings about a motherly feeling to you, to make sure that the head is propped correctly, that the baby is comfortable, that his arms are in the right place, and then looking at the rest of your dolls, it also gives you a different feeling. Like, let's talk about this doll for a little bit. This doll was inspired by The Walking Dead.
Yes.
And who is she?
That is Sophia, and she's a zombie, obviously. I'm a big Walking Dead fan, and there was one episode where the little girl Sophia goes missing, and they can't find her, and there's a bunch of they call the zombies walkers in the program, and all these walkers start coming out of the barn, and they're the people are killing them, and then all of a sudden the little girl comes out as a zombie, and her mother starts running towards her, and they grab her and they have to put her down, which is shoot her in the head. The episode really stuck with me. It was extremely emotional.
Right.
And I just I was thinking about it for days afterwards, and
It's just one of those things
Yeah.
where it like strikes a chord.
It did, yeah.
That if a situation
Right.
like that really happened,
Right.
you know that you wouldn't have a choice because it's
Right.
like a survivor mode.
Right.
But then at the same time,
Exactly. As a
That's-
mother, it was
right.
heartbreaking.
Mhm,
So, you know, I thought, well, why don't I just make a doll of Sophia, and that's what I did. And now, like when I watch the episode, it doesn't bother me as much because it's like she's there, like
Right.
kind of. I mean, you know, in a sense, but
it's almost what is that word called? There's a certain word for it. You know, I forget what that word is. Not like recovery, but almost like some kind of comfort. You know, that she's okay, like in here, even though it's a television show.
Right, even though it's a television show, it is, you know, it's a very emotional show and things like that. But we took her to a horror convention and we actually met some of the cast of The Walking Dead. And everyone was so impressed with her. And you know, it was kind of like she was brought back to life.
Yes.
You know, and we had her in a little
zombie being brought back to life.
Right. We had her in a little carriage and a stroller and... you know, she has her little doll like on the episode and things. So it was really fun. I mean, this was the most work I've ever put into a doll. Took me about 3 weeks.
Look at the details on this doll. I mean, you have. I'm assuming that these were the shorts that she wore.
Yes, the whole outfit is. We painted the shirt ourselves because we couldn't find it.
Okay.
We obviously altered, dyed the clothes and. You know, I mean, I printed out dozens of pictures.
She has a bite mark over here.
Yeah, she was bit on the shoulder.
Okay.
Down to every detail.
Dirty sneakers.
Yeah. I'm very much into
and
detail.
It's heavy. I mean, it's like there's weight to this when you hold the one leg. There's actual weight to it. So you can imagine if you picked up this child, it's like picking up a real child.
Yes.
What goes through your mind, like before we move over to the other dolls, but this doll specifically, what was going through your mind as you were making her? Was there any kind of, you know, like what kind of feelings? Describe your feelings when you were making her as opposed to maybe making this baby over here.
Well, it was a bit more challenging because it was based on a character that already existed, whereas as one like this, I just create from my own mind. So I was extremely focused for many weeks, studying all the pictures of her. I watched the episode. I would rewind it and take pictures with my phone and things, and zoom in, and print them out, and you know, my family even helped and said, you know, oh, she has a bruise on her back and, you know, things like that. The eyes I was particularly focused on because she had those grayish kind of cloudy zombie eyes. So I actually painted those myself.
Wow.
And it took several tries, but I think I got it down.
I mean, even right down to the small baby teeth.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was just really focused on the detailing because as a lifelong fan of horror, I, you know, wouldn't want to disappoint, you know, the horror fans or whatever, walking around with her. I wanted her to be on point. Yes, that I set for myself.
Right.
You know, and I was very, very pleased with the outcome because I think she looks great. And so great that I decided not to sell her. So she's staying with me.
Well, that's awesome. You get to stay here, Sophia. Look, even right down to the fingernails. Her fingernails are polished.
You know, to me, with the dolls, it has to be real in the sense that it has to make sense.
Yes.
So I put a lot of thought into detail and think like, well, if a girl was to turn into a zombie, what would her nails look like? What would the skin be like? What would the eyes be like? What would be coming out of their mouth? How would their teeth look? You know, things like that are like huge to me. So I spend a lot of time on the internet doing research, you know, and then I put that from my mind to the canvas, which happens to be doll parts.
Right. So let's talk about one of the dolls behind you over here on this side, the zombie bloody doll.
Yes.
Now, I know somebody can see that and like freak the fuck out and be like, what the fuck? Why would somebody do this? You know, a baby is precious, blah, 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 blah. But that's the whole different thing about what you're doing here. is that it's still going to be precious, even though
Right. I mean,
it's goth and scary like.
Right. I mean, obviously, these kind of dolls are not for everyone, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not creating them to please anybody.
Right.
You know, it simply is an art form, and for me, I've always been, you know, kind of macabre and a bit morbid. You know, to me, things in life aren't always pretty. So, and that goes for art, you know. And obviously, I mean, if there are zombies, there would be zombie babies. So, I mean, it you know, I could see how it might not sit well with certain people. But then again, it's a piece of art. It's not a baby. I you know, I hate to hear of anything happening to a baby. Or I love children. I love babies. But this is just, you know, it's art, and that's it. And they are dolls.
Yeah, exactly.
they're not babies. I'm not you know, blooding up a real baby. But you know, as I don't get that many. You know, I've got maybe one or two people that said, "Oh, I don't like them," but the positive response is so much greater. I mean, I only planned on making these in October. And
for Halloween.
For Halloween.
Right.
And the response was so great that I have to make them all year. I get more orders for the zombies than for the regular babies.
Yeah.
People just love them, you know.
Well, I think in our society today, even though people don't like to admit that they want different things, this is something different. And not every baby that you make is going to be exactly the same.
Oh, no.
So it's almost as if they really have a unique child.
Yes.
Whatever it is that they ask for. What's the most outrageous request, if you've had any?
I mean, to me, it's hard for me to say outrageous because, you know, I'm very open-minded, so, oh, I just got one for, a baby with, hooves and claws.
Okay. And that's something that you're working on
Yes.
right now.
A demon baby, yes.
All right. Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I mean, I think for, you know, I guess for me and for you, because we both come from that same like-minded world, it's kind of like, yeah, okay, you know, a baby with hooves and claws. That I would love to see the outcome of that. You know what I mean? Where like somebody else would be like, okay, these women are crazy. You know, and we're not crazy. We just like different things. And I think this is really different, everything that you're working on. Let's talk about the rest of your dolls here. This is, this looks like a christening dress.
Yes. That's Grace, and she's a more subtle zombie. That would be like if she was just about to turn. She creeps out people the most because it is more subtle.
Yeah. Is it because of the christening dress? Like
I don't know what it is.
Good with the quote unquote bad.
I think
kind
maybe
of mixed together.
Maybe, but even when she was not in that dress, people got creeped out with her. I think it's that thing that's saying like sometimes less is more.
Yeah.
So you know they're like, oh, that baby looks real, but it doesn't look alive. So it's kind of strange. But I actually made her based off one of my favorite movies, Grace, which is about a zombie baby.
Okay.
So I just, you know, created her, and I wasn't able to part with her either. But I made one similar for a customer because she fell in love with her, and I made one similar.
Have you? Well, my own personal fascination. Now that I'm thinking about it, have you ever made a werewolf baby?
No, but I've gotten a lot of requests for werewolf babies. But the thing with that is, I root the hair,
right,
and literally with a little needle.
Yeah.
One by one. And I would have to root everything.
Yeah.
So it's just, you know, I would do it, but it would cost a lot.
Well, you know, just maybe the face part. Does it have to be like the whole body?
I would probably do like, you know, the legs and everything. That's just me. I want it really furry. So, you know, I don't know.
You have to make at least one prototype to show
I will
people
eventually.
the idea.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. my creativity was never in art. It was always in writing and you know, other forms of art. So, you know, I don't know how it would work out. Maybe if you had like half of the face, like, you know, with hair, kind of like the anticipation that it's going to change.
That's a good idea. Yeah. I can definitely do it. I mean.
Now, a lot of these dolls in the back over here, did you make these dolls, or these are part of your collection?
They're part of my collection. That one I made.
Okay.
That's Baby Daryl. He's another Walking Dead character.
Oh,
based
he
on...
looks like
like Norman Reedus.
Like
these are Crypt Kitties, and I've been collecting them for years. So.
Okay. That's awesome. Now, did you have another doll on this side that you wanted to talk about? I thought that you put it. Yeah, you did. Yes, that's right. The Mini Me doll.
Yes, this is. Oh, I'm trying to pick her up. She's she's
falling
big.
down.
This
now,
is little Marilyn.
Let me put baby down, and I'll take that one out of your hands.
Okay.
We'll put him over here next to Sophia. See, now I gotta fix his head up so that it doesn't go all the way back. And let me have this one over here.
Yeah, we'll put her on my lap.
Now, talk to me about when you started off making this doll. What were you thinking of, and then what happened?
Well,
when she turned into you.
Yeah. Well, I did this sculpt just as a toddler, and then I thought, because the pouty mouth and everything, oh, that'd be cute, like as Marilyn, like blowing a kiss. Right. Marilyn Monroe.
Yes.
And I worked on her, and you know, I put her aside then, you know, and then when I put the hair on, I posted pictures, and everyone thought she looked like me, so she became me. And I did a photo shoot with her.
If you look at her lips and you look at your lips, it's the same exact thing.
Sometimes that happens. Yeah.
So when you get these, I mean, you get the equipment. Basically, you're making the face.
Well, they come in they're blank vinyl parts. So I buy like the head. They're called kits. I buy the head and the limbs. That's all they are, is blank vinyl parts. So they have to be painted. And you're doing the rest. Yeah, they just come blank.
Right. That's a big thing to do, because, you know, people who are not really artist savvy, like if I got something like this, I wouldn't know, like, how to do that, you know?
Yeah, I'm surprised I can do it, because I really, to be honest with you, I can't draw nothing like that, so I was actually shocked. When I started, I was like, I mean, because everything costs a lot of money to make these dolls, you know? It's an expensive art form. Yeah. Especially if it's just a hobby, it's very expensive. So, you know, actually, the woman, the artist that I purchased a lot of dolls from, was nice enough to send me a blank kit, just to try it out. If I told her I was going to try it out, and I bought a very small paint set. They're heat set paint, so it goes on in many layers, and each layer has to be baked in the oven. So it's so time consuming.
Wow.
Yeah, and it takes usually I put about 20 hours into painting each doll.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
So there's not one doll that you can make like overnight. This is definitely, you're looking at, somebody places an order for a doll. What time frame are we looking at from the time that you make the doll to its completion that you can send it out?
I usually give myself a week, which is very, very quick. Most artists, it's 6 to 8 weeks, you know, something like that. But once I get into it, I really get into it. So, you know, usually the painting process is 2 to 3 days. And then the hair takes a while. That's like, depending on how much hair I'm adding, if I'm rooting the hair myself.
Right.
You know, a head like that would take maybe 4 days, you know, to put all the hair in.
And you do the hair also with the, I don't know
eyelashes.
If you can come closer with the camera, but if you can see the detail, I mean, this is really detailed work. This is not just something that you kind of like, you know, get it like this and screw the head in and call it a day and say, here, the doll's ready.
No.
I mean, there's a lot of detail that goes into this. It goes, I mean, right down to the hair. This is awesome, awesome work.
Thank you.
It really is. we're going to take a short break for our KEM Top Talk fans, and we're going to talk a little bit more with Marilyn Mansfield and look at the rest of her dolls, because this is not the only collection. She has a lot more, you know, to share with us, and we'll be right back. Hey, this is Marabelle Blue, and we are back with another version of KEM Top Talk with none other than Marilyn Mansfield. And previously we were just talking about all of her different type dolls. We were talking about Sophia from The Walking Dead. We were talking about these realistic babies here that I eventually had to put down because I was rocking him, if you didn't notice before. And we were talking about the mini-me Marilyn Mansfield doll. And now we're going to talk about this little guy over here who you called Awake before.
Yes, he's an awake baby. This is Peter.
Oh my God. And she gives them names too.
Of course.
I mean,
He's
it's
grumpy.
like he looks grumpy.
Yeah.
But he actually looked like he just woke up.
Yeah.
And this is something that, well, when you get the model clearly doesn't look like that. You make it do that.
Well, you know, it has the features and all, but it doesn't. It's not alive. You know, until I paint it. You know what I mean? It doesn't look alive until.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They just are blank. You know, it's just blank. No paint, no eyes, nothing.
Now, have you gone down the street with any of these babies? And what was the reaction? Like, you would just be in a carriage. You would have the baby with the inside the carriage.
Mm-hmm.
And what would be the reaction?
Well, usually I take out the sleeping ones, like the one you were holding.
Right.
People usually come over because they think it's a newborn baby, and newborn babies get a lot of attention.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. So you know, they come over and they go, "Oh, so sweet. How old is the baby?" And then I never lie. You know, I say it's a doll, and they don't understand what I'm talking about, and they keep asking, "How old is the baby? How old is the baby?" And then I say it's a doll, and then usually that's the point where my husband
has to step in and
he steps in, he takes out the pacifier. They still don't get it, and I say it's a doll, it's not alive,
And that's when they're like freaking out. But I mean, you know, yeah, we've had spectacles.
We've had spectacles, you know, in the supermarket and things where we held up lines because of it and things like that. But you know, I do it because it makes me happy. I love to push a baby carriage. I'm not going to push an empty baby carriage. So,
right.
You know, my family doesn't mind at all. You know, I've been a mom practically my whole life. I had my first daughter very young. So I'm just like used to being a mom.
Yeah.
And as the kids get older, you know.
Do you feel like that baby part of their lives have left you, and some of these dolls kind of replace that feeling?
No, I mean, it doesn't go that deep, you know. For some people it does. But for me, it's just simply, you know, I love shopping for baby things. And every year the baby things, you know, come out, new things come out. And to be honest with you, everything is in black now. You know, black cribs and black strollers and things. Which,
really?
Yes, which I did not have for my children. And, like, I bought a black crib and put the dolls in it. And I bought a black stroller and put the dolls in it, you know.
Wow.
So
that's really interesting to know, because, you know, in my early upbringing, you know, as a child growing up, you know, when a baby was around, everything had to be clean and pure.
Right.
And,
Pink or blue or yellow.
Right, exactly. And, you know, everything had to be, like, so godly and all of this stuff. And, you know, we live in a different time now where, you know, we almost welcome, you know, that darkness into our lives.
I mean, even, you know, me and my husband.
Well, I do. I don't know about anybody else.
Sure. I mean, I do too, you know. But when we had my son Damien, I remember we wanted to bring him home in a black outfit. We couldn't find any, so I had to like hand dye it. And my mother-in-law knitted a black blanket because there was none. Now you can just, you know, buy them at Target, you know, and everything has little skulls, and everything for the girls is a leopard, and it's just really fun, you know. And the best thing about the dolls is if you buy them clothes or whatever, they don't grow out of them.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
you know.
So you can always switch it up. Like, you know, what was that term? When a hand-me-down.
Yeah. Yes. I've dressed
So
them
they're
in my
not
son's
really being
clothes.
hand-me-downs,
Right.
they're just sharing.
Right. You know, but it's nice, even like I have some of my son's things, you know, that I didn't want to get rid of. Instead of having it in a box, you could display it on the doll, and it's like a nice, you know, even his blanket, you know, things like that. It's just, you know, something nice. Plus, I love dolls, and I'm very maternal, so for me, it's, you know, it's fun. It's like when you're little and you're playing with your dolls, except I'm grown up, and
But
So
also, it's a good way
makes you
to
feel
network
good.
as well.
Yeah.
Right.
It
makes you feel good.
And there's nothing wrong with doing something that
Right.
makes you feel good, because at
Right.
the end of the day, when you're taking an order for somebody, not only is it making you feel good, but you know that that person is going to engage in those
Oh,
same
yes,
feelings
yes.
when they have their doll in their hand.
right. I mean, it's, you know, not every woman takes a doll out in a carriage with their family.
Right.
That's fine. And if, you know, people want to say, oh, she's crazy, I really don't care. You know, I'm very comfortable with myself. So that's kind of stuff doesn't bother me, you know. But also now, because I started creating the dolls, it's the best form of advertising is to bring the doll out. Because every
Right.
time someone comes over and asks us about the doll, the baby,
Right.
you know, they leave with a card.
Yeah.
So I'm getting, you know, I've gotten business through that, you know. So, I mean, some people have seen me on television, you know.
It's a doll.
And I was just about to
Right.
say, you've been featured in other magazines.
Right.
You've been featured in television programs.
Yes.
I think were you featured in My Obsession? Were
My
you
Collection
featured?
Obsession,
Yeah.
yes, on TLC. That was the first one I did. I did that as a collector. I wasn't even making the dolls yet. And we took the doll shopping. We went out to eat with one of the dolls. It was so much fun, and I was so happy with the way that show turned out. You know, it was really fun, and it had a light spin on the whole thing, you know. And I got emails. I get emails every day from all over the world saying, you know, I was embarrassed because I still had my dolls and everything, and I always wanted to bring them out, but I felt like people would make fun of me, but I saw you, and now I take them out, and things like that. It's like, you know, there shouldn't be an age limit or on what makes you happy.
Right.
You're not hurting anybody.
Exactly.
I mean, I know they're dolls. I know they're not real. But, you know, my family is so supportive, too. They've become part of the family, you know. So, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing something that makes you happy, and it's not hurting anybody or yourself.
So
you know?
when you're in the process of making another doll, what does your husband do? Like, he'll walk by and will he say anything? Will he...
My husband has, he's very, very supportive. But he is also a huge part of my business, you know. He gives me his input all the time. He's always praising my work. When we do conventions, he will hold a doll for 3 days straight, you know, and get out there and promote it. He is like, you know, I mean, he's really my other half, you know.
Right.
And, you know, when I started this whole thing with the business, I was, you know, a little bit nervous about it because I've never done anything like this. And he was always right there being totally supportive, and, you know, he'll say, wow, this looks amazing. Oh, he'll even say, you know what, I think you should add. And my daughter too, because we're all very creative and we're all involved in some form of art.
Right.
So I you know, will take that, you know, critiques or feedback and, you know, apply it to the dolls. And when we do horror conventions and doll conventions, we do it as a family. It's now a family business, you know.
Has anybody ever approached you and said, you know, like, why are you exposing your children to this? Or, you know, you're going to damage your children, or whatever the case may be. Have you ever had any negative response?
To me, no. No one has ever said anything like that to me. They always ask, do your children like the dolls? And the answer is yes, they do. I mean, they really do. It's not forced on them or anything. But, they've been around it their whole life. I mean, I've always had dolls. All my whole life, even into my adulthood. And, they even collect their own dolls. And, they have made their own dolls, too. It's not forced on them, but they really do love and respect, the art form and the collection. And, it's if it wasn't for that, I don't think it would be so easy for me to, be who I am. But luckily, I have a supportive and loving family that, they do support me in everything that I do. So I'm very lucky.
I think you bring up a good point in sharing with our audience that you have all of these different things. You have your creative aspect of you. You have the part of you that nurtures yourself as a child growing up. And then you have the adult part of you where your husband and yourself, you go out and you promote your business and you go to conventions. So, you do all of these things. That's a lot to do. I mean, I think anybody who's watching this would sit back and say, she's a mom, she's a businesswoman, she takes care of her family, she creates all of these dolls. Like, where do you get the time to even breathe, Let's get into more of that detail aspect, and we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with more Marilyn Mansfield on KEM Top Talk. Hey, this is Marabelle Blue with KEM Top Talk here at Marilyn Mansfield's Palace. And we have been talking about a variety of things today, mainly her collection of reborn dolls. And we're going to talk a little bit more about things that you were mentioning before about your family and business and growing up and feeling, fine taking the dolls out. That you've had other people contact you and tell you that they took their dolls out in public and, they didn't have like shame behind it, and that there shouldn't be a limit as to when we can stop playing with certain things.
Right.
I mean, we have people today, as adults, people collect comic books.
Right.
And, for some reason, I guess growing up, you go through all of these phases. And after a certain phase, you're supposed to stop doing certain things because you're growing up or, coming into like some kind of an adulthood. And you having all of these dolls with you and discussing, about your children. So you're a mom, but yet you're still you.
Yes.
You're still Marilyn Mansfield.
Right.
The girl that grew up with a fascination of dolls, who still nurtures that as an adult.
Yes.
And, I guess anyone who thinks that they're smart, within society or, psychologists or whatever would say, you're stuck somewhere, in life, you refuse to grow up in this area, which I really don't believe. I believe that we should always nurture whatever it is that we have, inside, as far as, as long thing or whatever makes you feel good. Like masturbation makes people feel good. And that's not a bad thing. But, some people try to make it a bad thing. So I was using that as an example. It's like one extreme to the next.
Yeah.
But that is why I'm Marabelle Blue. So talk to me a little bit about, your phase, your growing up and having these dolls and taking it into, your adult life, so to speak.
Well, I think people are born with, certain things that can be looked at as a phase or whatever, but in reality, it's not a phase, it's part of you. And I think this is one of those things for me that, because it goes so far beyond dolls. I mean, there's a whole thing with, artificial human companions and things like that. And, it just, I think when we're born with certain things, and when, the world, when we're exposed to the world,
Right.
we discover what some of those things are.
Exactly.
And, I mean, I remember seeing mannequins in the store and like going up to them and studying them and, sitting down and posing like my dolls.
When I was little, I remember doing all that sort of
Did you
things.
feel like looking at the mannequins, you had created a life for them?
No, I felt bad for them. I always felt kind of bad for them because they had to stand there wearing what if they didn't like that outfit if they were alive? Like if they were alive, would they want to be doing what they were doing? Just fake artificial humans always, I mean, something that's supposed to look like a human but is not alive has, fascinated me since my brain is able to go, back into that far. But and the reactions to them, robots too. I mean, they're coming out every day with more and more, like those Japanese robots that look like, I mean, you would think it's a person. It's just amazing. It excites me in a way, like I don't know, like when you were little and you Christmas morning looking at your presents. I still get that excitement, like, wow, this is, I'm just so passionate about it. And speaking about obsessions earlier, I do say I have a healthy obsession because it doesn't interfere with my life that I'm not able to do what I need to do.
Right.
I do other things.
You cook, you clean,
right,
you
right.
take care
I do
of your
I do many
family.
other things, but this is just something that is a huge part of my life, and it has been positive. I started collecting dolls. Now I make them and I own my own business. I mean, that's something that you just have to be so passionate about something, especially these kind of dolls. Sit there and insert a hair one by one.
Right.
You can't do that if you don't like dolls.
And make that face.
Right,
I mean, if the camera pans in close with this particular doll, I mean, the baby looks like he just literally woke up from a really deep sleep. I mean, like, look at this. That really is a work of art to do something like this. Now, moving forward, you're talking about, family and life and things of that nature. I mean, it's like, and it looks so real that you can't help but to hold it like a baby, because you want to make sure that the head is propped right and that, the legs are not flying down. I mean, it's like, look at this. It's a different experience. I can't, personally for me, I can't call it creepy. I can't say it's weird. It's a different experience. It's definitely bringing out different feelings in me. Being a woman who's not a mother, but still that motherly feeling. It's like, oh my God, make sure that his coat is on. It's a little cool here in the room. It's like all of these things come up, and it leads me, I guess to touch upon the innocence, because when we're growing up, we're vulnerable, we're innocent, and just like you were talking about before, with as you get older, they teach you this in psychology courses, how you become aware of the world around you, how you could become aware that your friend next door has an outfit that you really wanted, but for some reason you don't have it. So it's like little things like that. Do you feel like you still embrace your innocence with these dolls?
Somewhat. I mean, like I said earlier, I had my first child as a teenager. So I really didn't have a long childhood. But I remember like buying her dolls when she was a baby. I would end up like looking at them and, you know, playing. I would pick out ones maybe that I liked, you know, and things like that. It's, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I don't think, I wouldn't say it keeps that innocence. I think it's just evolved into something that is, something more now. I mean, I remember when I was like about 8, I got a doll, and I think Hasbro put them out. I don't remember, but it was called Real Baby, and they were weighted to feel like to 2 pounds, and they were supposed to look real, which now they doesn't look real compared to the dolls I make, you know.
Right, exactly.
But back then it was a high end, you know, doll, and it had a bottle that you could put the bottle in the mouth and everything. And this doll was my baby. I mean, I took it everywhere with me. I would have like, you know, for my birthday or whatever, I would have relatives buy clothes and things like that. I remember we went to Florida on a trip, and I brought her with me. Her name was Jessica. And the vinyl started to get soft from the heat.
Oh.
And I remember that I like begged my mother to go in the car and wait in the car, and I did. So she would cool off.
Yeah.
And I didn't go with the rest of them to whatever they were doing, because I just wanted my baby to be okay.
Right.
And, you know, that was just something that, it was just me and the doll, you know, and it was just something that was my own. You know, and I remember when we went through the airport, because it was weighted, they were feeling it and things. And I remember my mother saying, like, I hope they don't rip her head off.
You know, thinking that maybe there was something.
My mother was not the most delicate of people, or loving, you know, so, and I remember just feeling this fear, like, oh no, you know, that's my baby, you know.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
I loved it all. You know, the thing with artificial companions and things is that, you know, I've learned this, you know, throughout these last several years, is that you can love something, doesn't mean it has to love you back, but you can show love for things and get gratification out of that. You don't always have to have, you know, sometimes it could just be comforting if I had a bad day to come home and hold one of the dolls, and they are communicating with me in a way where it's soothing me, it's calming me, it's making me feel, you know, better. I mean, obviously they don't talk or they're not alive, but it's interaction, you know? And, you know, a lot of people say, oh, well, you know, you teach so much about dolls and things like that, but in reality, the dolls, in a way, in a sense, have taught me, because it shows me a lot when I take them out how closed-minded people can be, or how open-minded people can be, or how loving people can be, or how judgmental people can be, you know.
Yeah.
So it's always, you know, a learning experience, and especially with my real doll Ellie. We've taken her out, and, you know, we've put sunglasses on her, and she looks like a very beautiful young girl who was unfortunately in a wheelchair. And what me and my husband noticed, she actually hosted an event in Albany, so we had to drive up to Albany, and we had her in the wheelchair, and people would look and smile and then look away uncomfortable, like, oh, what happened to that poor girl?
We have to talk more about Ellie. We have to hear about this,
Yes.
but we have to take a quick break.
Okay.
And we're going to talk more about Ellie and your experience with her, because I definitely want to hear about this, because I know you have stories, because we're Facebook friends. So,
Right.
You know. This is Marabelle Blue with KEM Top Talk, and we'll be right back, and we're going to talk a little bit more about Ellie. Hey everyone, it's Marabelle Blue and KEM Top Talk here with Marilyn Mansfield. We're back, and we're talking about her collection of dolls, her orders, her life story, and growing up with her fascination of dolls. And we were talking about Ellie. Ellie's in a wheelchair, even though there's physically nothing wrong with her.
She was just heavy.
Yeah, Ellie is a life-size doll, so it would be basically impossible to hold her without, you know, actually grabbing her and walking down the street with her.
Well, I mean, also, one of my favorite movies is Lars and the Real Girl.
Mm-hmm.
And in that movie, he had a real doll in a wheelchair as well.
Mm-hmm.
Which, and you know, it really is the easiest way to move her around.
Right, right.
You know, so if I can't lift her, my husband has to lift her up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's 100 pounds of like dead weight.
Yeah.
So
That is
she's
pretty
heavy.
heavy to carry around.
Yeah.
Now, you made a mention before about, you know, people looking at her in the wheelchair and kind of looking like they have some kind of compassion, but still, like, turn
Right.
away.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of like the vibe that I'm getting. Well, we see it, but we don't want to see it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't think anyone, the average person would assume that that's a big doll in a wheelchair and two adults are pushing her around. So they figure it must be a young girl in a wheelchair. And, you know, that was the first time we had taken her out. And it was, again, a social experiment without even trying. You know, I remember we took her to Albany and we put her in the chair and checked in the hotel. And we got in the elevator and people would like look and kind of smile politely and look away, you know, not to stare. And then I was like, wow, I think people assume she is a young girl in a wheelchair.
Yeah. But that's good how you put it, a social experiment.
Yes.
Because, you know, I interviewed somebody not too long ago, Kerry Zukas. He's an author. And we were talking about an experiment that was done. I just happened to catch something earlier that day. And it was an experiment where people, scientists, I guess, had invited people to do like some kind of a social experiment. So what he did was he would tell the person, I can't recall what it was verbatim, but I think was like you were the person, but I didn't see you, and I asked you a series of questions, and
Right.
every time you got the answer wrong, I was supposed to zap you. But unbeknownst to me, you're on the other side. Nothing is happening to you. You're just making all of these screaming noises and basically to measure how far a person will go to zap another person every time they got the answer wrong. Like, you know, where was the compassion in all of this?
Right.
And it almost sounds like the same thing, but like in a different setting, that you're pushing this fictitious person in a wheelchair,
Right.
and still people don't want to deal with that.
Right. I mean, you know, and like I said, I mean, it's not, you know, there's no intentional mocking or anything like that.
Right.
She simply is in the wheelchair because she's very heavy.
Right. You can't physically walk that.
Right. So, you know, but, I mean, and then we went to a restaurant and the waiter asked if she wanted anything. Instead of talking to her, he asked, does she want anything? And I said, no, she's a doll. Which turned into a whole other spectacle,
Right,
you know.
right.
And then we took her to get shoes because I never got the right shoes for her because, again, I never took her shopping before. So I was like, you know what, while we're here, let's get her foot measured and get appropriate fitting shoes. And even then, they didn't realize she was a doll up until we told them, and then they were, you know, it was another spectacle in the store.
Right.
You know, they're impressed with her. They ask, I mean, people always think we're strange, but that's when we're out alone too, you know.
Yeah.
So it's not really a big deal. But you know, with Ellie, it's very interesting because you know, she came into the house as a doll, and now she's a part of the family. And I don't only feel that way, my whole family feels that way.
Yeah, I mean, she was sitting there in the wheelchair. My camera person came in and said hi and introduced herself
it always happens.
to the doll.
I mean, even when we have like, I remember the first time we had like a party for birthday party for the kids, and we invited our families over, our extended families. It was the first time they had met her, and at first it's funny, you know, and they make jokes. By the end of the day, everyone had, most of them had, my aunt and my cousins and things, had said goodbye to her, kissed her goodbye, you know. She gets invited to barbecues, you know. People mail her gifts, you know, friends and things like that. If we get a card, she's always addressed in the card for the holidays and so on and so forth, you know. We had like, it's funny, you know, but it's funny to see how people, at first it's like a big joke, you know,
Right.
and then it turns into they leave with having respect for Ellie.
Exactly.
And you know, and people leave with something learned, you know. I remember when we filmed the Nat Geo show Taboo. The producer wrote a blog about me and Ellie, and it was so touching that, you know, he said things like, "Who's to say what love is?" You know, and things like that, because
just what you were discussing before,
right,
about the whole one-sided thing, the idea, and it still keeps coming back to me, kind of like, you know, accepting that vulnerable aspect of your life, or embracing that innocence. And, you know, I say that for me on a personal level because, you know, my upbringing was, you know, as a teenager, I drank, I used drugs. And, you know, I never embraced, I guess, that part of me, that innocent part of me as a child, or, you know, whatever it is. It's in my book, don't worry. But, you know, there's a lot of aspects that go with nurturing yourself and growing up and accepting parts of yourself and accepting really parts of other people as well, because we have to grow up in the society. So that's, for me, that's what it seems to come back to, and that, you know, you are fulfilling in some sort of way other people's, you know, whatever it is that they're nurturing inside that makes them feel good about this life-size doll. Even though she's a doll, it's almost as if, you know, I was looking at her before, and she has a presence.
Yes.
Even though there's nothing inside, she has a presence. And I think that the presence is created by each individual that encounters, you know, that has an experience. Like for me, this baby has a presence. It may not have a presence for somebody else, but it has a presence for me. And I think at the end of the day, isn't that all that really matters? Don't you feel like I've accomplished something because, you know, somebody's leaving out of here feeling really good?
Oh, yes. Every time I make a doll for somebody, for whatever reason it is, you know, and they send me pictures of the doll with their children, and, you know, or a new outfit, or on vacation with them, it makes me feel very good, you know. For some people, that's their baby, you know, and I mean, I just recently made a little girl for a woman who has 4 sons, and she'll never have a daughter. And that's her daughter now, and she loves buying her dresses and things like that. You know.
And it makes her feel good.
Right,
and that's all that matters.
And the family is, you know, extremely supportive of it. I mean, you know, I've donated a baby doll to a Alzheimer's facility, and the facility worker wrote me saying that one of the more aggressive patients calmed down so much because of the doll, and actually spoke for, he didn't speak for a long time.
That's
and
pretty
his daughter
intense.
Came, and
that's not something you gloss over.
No, you know, and they, you know, it's they can be therapeutic for a lot of different, and I want to do that again. I want to, you know, donate a couple more to, you know, Alzheimer's facilities, and I thought about maybe St. Jude's Hospital with the children who have cancer. I thought maybe, I just think, you know, if kids like dolls, they should have a really nice one, you know.
I agree.
And
and something special, not something just generic.
You know,
totally
and
agree.
I mean, I gave one to my little cousin. She's about now she's 10, but I think she was 8, and she loved that. She still loves that doll, and they tell me all the time, she brings that doll everywhere. She carries around that doll, you know. And I gave her a little carrier and a little, you know, baby bag and everything. it's just something that, you know, when I was little, it was a lonely thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know,
You've turned it around.
I've turned it around, and I like to, you know, I think kids should have, and even little boys, you know, if they want a doll, there's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
you know.
Exactly. I love it.
Yeah.
And we're going to be wrapping up really soon, so we're going to take another break, and we're going to wrap up with Miss Marilyn Mansfield and all of her wonderful collection of dolls. This is KEM Top Talk, and we'll be right back. And we are back. Again, I am your host, Marabelle Blue, with another version of KEM Top Talk. And we are wrapping up here with Miss Marilyn Mansfield and her beautiful collection of dolls here that she has made. You know, we were talking off camera about how non-creative I am, and she keeps insisting, you are creative, you are creative. And I think that's, you know, that's the good thing about a person who can, you know, do art and see art and believe that it's in everybody. It's just a matter of tapping into it. Now, let's talk about this vampire guy over here, because we didn't get a chance to talk about him, and we didn't want to leave him out.
Yes, he's a handsome little guy. All the girls love him. That's Xander. I made him last year, and yeah, we weren't able to part with him either. He's been all over with us, that little guy. So.
Wow. And look at his outfit. Is this something that you bought, or did you make this?
Actually, the shirt and the vest were my son's.
Wow.
Yeah. And I bought the pants and the shoes. And the little cape that he has on was also my son's, so.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Well, you got a hand-me-down. Look at that. So, Marilyn, now that we have gotten to know you and your dolls, and this little guy over here who's very fast asleep, and Miss Sophia, who, you know, this is your prized possession over here. What's in store for your line, for your business? Where can people purchase dolls? Where can they make their orders?
MarilynMansfield.com. You can contact me through there. All my links are on there, Facebook and Twitter and everything. I mostly do custom orders, which I really enjoy, which means, you know, you contact me and you tell me what you want. And I create the doll for you. You know, and it's really fun to do that, because, you know, it's really catering to the client, and it's very personal, and, you know, I just really enjoy custom orders, because I'm really, you know, bringing their vision to life.
So,
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is a great thing to do. Now, what about your modeling career? Because I know that you were doing some modeling. Are you still doing that? You put up some pictures recently with you and your husband, which was like gorgeous.
Thank you.
You really, really photograph well. So are we going to see any more upcoming pictures of you?
You know, the thing is, with the dolls and everything and the work and all, it takes up a lot of my time. So I don't have that much time just to do shoots or whatever. But I do make time once in a while to do it, you know, and things like that, and I'm still with my agency and things. But, you know, the doll creating takes up a lot of the time, and running a business, you know. So,
right now it seems that that's your preference. The dolls are your...
Well, it's just
you know, I love to model too, but, you know, it's just the time. Finding the time for everything.
Finding the time for everything is difficult sometimes.
Yes, believe me, I know. I'm right there doing the balancing act of, you know, business and magazine and interviews. Right. So definitely it's definitely a balancing act to keep. And also producing this show.
Yeah. I know, there's not enough hours in the day.
I also do conventions. I'm doing a new horror convention in Atlantic City, June 13th to the 15th, which is called Bazaar AC, and it's going to be held in the Tropicana Hotel. And I will have Unborn Creations, that's the name of my horror line of dolls. I will have some there up for adoption. And it's really good for people to come to the conventions, because they are convention prices. So they're usually smaller dolls, that are lower cost. Lower cost.
So do you make a collection specifically
Right.
for this?
Yes.
Okay.
Every Chilla Theater, also in New Jersey, every October.
Right.
Last year I did very well. I came home with maybe like one doll.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's not bad.
Yeah, people love them, you know. And I mean, I brought some of my own. I brought Xander and I brought Grace. My husband actually sold one of my dolls.
He did.
He did, but
Oh,
it was
my
okay.
goodness.
She went to a good home. See, with me, it's like as long as the person they're going to a good home,
Right.
like, it's
Exactly.
okay, you know. But
exactly.
yeah. So, and I might be doing another convention, but I'm not exactly sure in August.
But we can see all of your
Yes.
updates on
Yes.
MarilynMansfield.com.
Yes,
so if you want to
definitely.
know more about Marilyn, you log on to her site. You want to order a doll, you put in your request. Everything is there.
Yes.
And we can find you at the convention June
13th to the 15th.
13th to the 15th.
BazaarAC.com is the website.
And we're looking forward to more, of
Yeah.
course. Soon you have to get interviewed for the magazine.
Yes.
I have to do another Women in Business issue because there are so many inspirational women in this day and age that are doing all different things across the board.
Yes.
And this is such a unique thing because you don't get this all the time.
Right.
You know, a woman who takes the time out and creates dolls and has a family, you know, and takes care of her home and looks beautiful and spectacular.
Oh, thank you.
You know, I mean, it's like we don't get this all the time. So this
Yeah.
is a good thing. Marilyn, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
your time
Thank you for
and
having
inviting us into your home.
Anytime.
I really, really appreciate it. I wish I could take you home with me, but you get to stay here in this very good, peaceful home. And we're definitely going to have lots more of KEM Top Talk. This is Marabelle Blues signing off, and we will see you very soon. Bye. Say bye-bye.